this. The final thing on the report is something that Matt referred to. Some additional information has come through, but initially what I wanted to convey in the report is that during the whole past year and probably even longer, we have been speaking about short-term space needs, and in particular accommodations that we wanted to make for some of the special programs, particularly the high school stabilization program at Newton South, but also Central High School, and trying to do as much planning and taking advantage of facilities as we could. So part of that was that we were hoping to use the 4 modulars that were retained as Zervis was going through the demolition process, and we were able to do that. I've been reporting this to you, and we're able to secure them over at Brown. Then Mike has worked with folks at the city in retaining some architectural design that's needed, because you can't just sort of drive the things over and plant them. You have to do it properly and design accordingly.
It's not like a tree fort.
No.
It's like,
but the great news is that all 4 of these modulars are going to be incredibly useful in 2 very key locations. So up until now, I've just been reporting and say we're working with the city, and we've let them know that you've indicated, certainly to Mike and me and to Judy, and we all are, and David, we've been working to understand that we want to try to meet these needs. So it's actually now happening, and now it's even more formalized. That's why I sent out the addendum to your memo today.
I want to say how wonderful it is that we're making progress on the tin building, and I feel like we should name it after you and Judy.
Oh.
Because the 2 of you,
the tin building or the
so many
modulars?
conversations
The modulars.
about the tin building and really improving it for our students in the high school stabilization. And Judy's been an incredibly wonderful advocate on this. Paula has, Sandy, and I just want to acknowledge that, because it's really great that we're getting this together.
Will you come back for the ribbon
We're
cutting?
going to have a groundbreaking
okay.
for the tin building and name it. I'm kidding, but it's really important work, and I just want to share.
Well, I guess I would say that in addition to that, which we appreciate, is also acknowledgement that, and I'm sorry the mayor isn't here to hear this, but the mayor and Maureen and Dory Selesnik and the city administration have made it work by locating a funding source and working through Mike and Josh Morse to get the proper cost estimates needed. And so there's actually now a docket request so that the funding appropriation, which is essentially $500,000, $500,000, to set the 2 modulars over at Newton South and create a walkway, permanently install them and create a walkway back to the tin building, which will be used more for storage, but there are bathroom facilities in there which will still be usable. And then at Brown Middle School, we're able to site the other 2 modulars, the actually newer modulars, at Brown to have 2 excellent classroom spaces at Brown, and have those cited as well. And the combined cost is $500,000, which does not come from any existing school operating or capital budget, but is supplemental funds being put forward as recommended by Maureen Lemieux. And we'll go through all of the city process to have a supplemental appropriation just for these projects. And so, as it turns out, even though we've been discussing it and assuming that we all agree on this, it will be really important for the school committee to vote in support of this and indicate that this actually is something that the school committee wants to happen and is in favor of, so that when they go through the process in the city government, they have that as part of the documentation.
I just have to say this is terrific news. I didn't know it was coming down the pike, so I'm sorry the mayor's not here. I'm sure Maureen is hopefully back in her own state enjoying dinner, but thank you. This is really...
Watching this on live streaming.
I think she's likely at the finance committee meeting where Sue Jakowski is tonight. If you notice, she's not here because we have a couple of items on that agenda as well. So, but you'll see in the drawings that we emailed to you that there are pathways from the parking lots, which just make the facilities accessible, and it's going to be tremendously improved space. I will add that there's going to be additional work done in the ground floor, the first floor of the Ed Center, so that Central High School will be able to move out of its, I'll call it, somewhat temporary structure into classroom spaces that are downstairs, and also hoping to create some professional development conference space that is tremendously needed for the district down there, and some office space. So with the preschool moving out, we have the opportunity to do those things, and the city is assisting with funding on that as well, but not in this particular appropriation.
I'm just curious, Raymond Design Architects, who are they? Are they the architect on call?
They're one of the 4 on-call architects that the city has.
I don't have any view, I'm curious who they
No,
are.
Gene Raymond has done work for the city before and is familiar with the district and has done some work out of Newton South. Is that correct?
Okay. Ellen?
So I just have a quick question. You had referenced a walkway from the modular to the bathrooms in the tin. Is that an open walkway or is that a closed walkway?
So right now, there will be a closed walkway to get from the modular, so the kids don't have to go outside to get into the tin building. There will be a covered walkway.
That's what I thought. I just
This is one
didn't
of the
see it on
original,
here, but-
earlier sketches.
Oh, okay. Okay, great. And then how many rooms downstairs will Central occupy? Like, what's that configuration?
Well, right now, they've got 2 classrooms over there and 3 smaller classrooms
Right.
for teaching learning spaces.
Yep.
So I'm not sure what they'll grow into when they move downstairs, but we'll outfit the spaces that Judy's kind of identified, and we'll figure out what spaces they need.
We're actually working on that.
Great, thank you.
Diana?
Well, I'm thrilled that this is being funded by the city. That's such good news because we've really needed this space. I just wanted to confirm that we have the FTEs in the budget for teachers for those classrooms at Brown, right? To be able to use that space next year.
I think the answer is
Yes, I think it was,
Yes.
the need was for space,
Yes.
not for, I think this is going to be more appropriate teaching space.
They're
John?
getting 2 new teams, they're getting
Yeah.
like an additional half team,
If-
Diana?
Yeah, if you go back to the budget document, there's a slight shifting of staffing between and among middle schools.
Right.
Yeah,
Right, and I remember that Brown was increasing. I just wasn't sure if this was the space those teachers were going
well,
into.
they may not go in the, there's.
Well, I mean, I'm not necessarily, but that, these spaces were required in order to
John Jordan
have
had
enough
had a
classrooms.
list of spaces that he wanted me to reconfigure to accommodate the growth. So we're not going to need to do that internal work anymore. This will displace that.
Okay,
So we were creating spaces this summer regardless. This is much, much better space than what we were going to try to do.
So then, once he knows what classrooms he has to work with, I wouldn't be prepared to say yet exactly which classes are going in those
Oh,
2 spaces.
yeah, that's not what I meant.
But
That's
he
okay.
needed the additional classrooms.
and this doesn't trigger the sprinkler requirement, right?
At Brown, it does not, correct.
Okay.
They will be detached and not connected to the building.
Angela?
So I'd like to motion.
I'll second.
Well, what do you second? She hasn't made the
Well,
motion.
so actually,
Anything.
actually, is
Anything.
Sandy, but before you do that, is there a specific motion that you want Angela to make?
To support the
I
request
think
for the
it's that
additional
middle, I
funds.
think that it's the middle paragraph
That's
of
what I
the
was thinking.
memo.
Okay. All right. So I motion to support this request for additional funds of $500,000 to cover the sitting, foundation, utility work, construction, interior finishing of 2 modular additions at Newton South and Brown.
It's the first sentence.
Second.
And I would include what they're used for, because I think that's what the city council members are going to ask to know, if the school committee was very specific in what the needs
And
were.
the module additions will provide 2 classrooms at each school needed for the high school stabilization program and to accommodate enrollment at Brown Middle School.
So
I just have a
Ruth seconded it. Any discussion?
Yeah, I just had a question, just slipped in the last part of it. Well, you answered Ellen's question about it being bathrooms being internal walkways between the modular classrooms over at the high school to the bathrooms. The last thing that you just said is that the modular classrooms at Brown will not be connected, and so I'm just wondering what the implications are that the reason for it was because of the sprinklers, I'm assuming. We could not connect it to,
Correct. If we connected it, it would have set off the criteria to add sprinklers to the entire facility. Even though we think that's a fantastic idea, it's a funding issue at this point. It's more than $1 million project.
and so how,
South
is there
already
some kind
sprinkled.
of coverage like they have over at Newton South or something like that in inclement weather that students are going from the outside from one building to another?
So at South, the walkways, so we have coverage in all of the access to the different buildings as it exists right now. They walk outside, sometimes it's an unheated, untemporary space, but it has a cover. We would try and do something like that at Brown. Right now, I don't think that's in the scope due to the budget constraints. We're going to see how the numbers come in. Tomorrow, I'm touring both locations with 3 different contractors to find out what these numbers will really look like. These are just the architectural estimates, but when we meet with the contractors tomorrow, we'll find out what the number looks like. If we can build covered walkways at Brown so that students can walk undercover, that's what we're trying to, that's the goal.
Yeah, I mean, I think I would also, to the extent that there is discussion, I don't know if it has to be part of the motion, but certainly to the extent that there is, I would think that would be a high priority to make sure that the kids are covered, especially in inclement weather when they're going from one classroom to another. A lot of kids do not wear their jackets, from one class to another. Well, but regardless, I mean, it's not a very long walkway that would be needed, and it seems like that it hopefully will be a priority for us to help the kids with their transit. I mean, and the teachers.
Okay. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? 8-0.
Thank you.
And good. So is this all that's needed for the city council? Do I need to sign something?
Well, I think we'll ask Lisa for a copy of the motion and the vote.
When does it go to city council? Sorry.
Well, they're sending a docket request, so we'll send the evidence of your vote right away over to the mayor's office so they can include it in the materials. I don't think we have the full calendar for when it's going to get put onto the finance committee and so forth. But having this vote tonight means that they have what they need from us as far as we know so that the process can start.
Thank you.
You are
Thanks
welcome.
a lot. Good update. Good, thorough, comprehensive. Okay, we are now into Judy's final presentation to us, special education update. We spoke